Pisces, avoid this color for April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th, or you'll lose your money and power in 2026. Pisces. This message may look like it is about a color, but deep down, it is about something far more sacred, the condition of your spirit before God, the weight in your heart, and the quiet shift in your energy that could shape the road you walk into 2026. So before you scroll away, before you tell yourself this is just another warning, breathe for a moment and listen carefully, because April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th are not ordinary days for you. They carry a strange emotional charge, a subtle opening, a spiritual mirror, and if you move through them unconsciously, wearing the wrong color, may become a symbol of something deeper. You have been carrying for too long fear, confusion, heaviness, self-doubt, and silent exhaustion. This is not superstition. Pisces. This is about resonance. This is about what your soul is agreeing with when your mind is too tired to notice. There are moments when heaven tries to protect your future, not with thunder, not with punishment, but with a whisper, a nudge, a feeling that tells you to slow down, to pay attention, to stop dressing your pain as confidence, and stop calling your spiritual fatigue normal. And these days hold that kind of whisper for you. Because the wrong color in this window is not dangerous on its own. It becomes dangerous only when it amplifies the part of you that is already drifting away from peace, away from clarity, away from the blessing that God has been trying to place into your hands. Pisces, you are one of the most spiritually sensitive signs. You do not just wear things, you absorb them. You carry atmospheres. You pick up the unseen. You feel what others hide. And that is why what seems small to others is never truly small for you. A color can become a cloak can become a frequency, and a frequency can either open the door to wisdom, favor, and provision, or quietly pull you toward distraction, emotional spending, false urgency, and choices that weaken your power. If you have felt lately like your money slips through your hands too quickly, like your focus has been scattered, like your confidence rises and falls with other people's energy, then this message found you for a reason. Maybe heaven is not trying to scare you. Maybe heaven is trying to wake you up before a small misalignment becomes a costly pattern. In Buddhist wisdom, suffering often deepens when the mind clings blindly, when it moves without awareness, when it confuses illusion for truth. In Christian faith, blessings grow where there is trust, obedience, humility, and spiritual discernment. And right here at this crossing, both truths meet. Because what you choose outwardly in these days may reveal what you are still battling inwardly. That is why this warning is gentle but serious. You are not being told that one color has power over your destiny. You are being shown that your inner state has power over what you invite, what you tolerate, and what you multiply. Pisces. Your wealth is not only money. Your wealth is your peace. Your wealth is your discernment. Your wealth is your God-given dignity. Your wealth is the anointing over your future. And when you move in harmony with that truth, favor flows differently. Doors open differently, and even your presence begins to carry abundance before a single result appears. So do not ignore this. Do not brush this aside as something too simple to matter. The enemy of your next level rarely enters with loud destruction. Sometimes it enters through subtle agreement, through small emotional choices, through a color, a mood, a frequency that keeps your spirit heavy and your vision clouded. But today, you can choose differently. Today, you can step back into alignment. And if something in your spirit is already stirring as you hear this, Then type I, choose peace, favor, and abundance in the comments, because every written word is a seed of intention. Like this video if you are ready to protect your future. Subscribe if you know your spirit was meant for more than survival. And share this with another Pisces soul who needs this warning before these dates arrive. Because this is only the beginning, and what comes next may explain why this message found you now. Pisces, what is happening around you in these days is more subtle than most people realize. And if you do not slow down and read the spiritual atmosphere carefully, you may mistake an inner warning for a random mood, a holy redirection for emotional confusion, or a divine interruption for bad luck. April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th are not important because of fear and not because one color suddenly becomes cursed, but because your spirit is especially impressionable in this window. And what you are drawn to on the outside may reflect what is quietly growing inside you. This is the deeper meaning you must understand. You are a sign that feels before it explains, absorbs before it filters, and carries emotional weather in the body long before the mind finds language for it. That is why color matters differently for you. For other people, it may simply be style. For you, it can become agreement. It can become atmosphere. It can become a silent extension of the state of soul you are living in. And during these dates, that matters more than usual. Because when Pisces is tired, overstretched, disappointed, or spiritually ungrounded, there is often a temptation to choose what mirrors chaos instead of what restores peace. You may be drawn toward shades that feel intense, dramatic, dark, forceful, or emotionally charged. Not because they are evil, but because some part of you is trying to armor itself, prove something, hide pain, or regain control. That is the moment this message is speaking to. Not to shame you, but to wake you up. In Buddhist understanding, the suffering mind attaches itself to illusions that seem powerful in the moment, but create more confusion later. In Christian truth, when the heart grows distant from peace, it often begins to reach for appearances instead of presence, performance instead of trust, pressure instead of prayer. So, if you have been feeling restless, financially, uneasy, emotionally, reactive, or strangely pulled between hope and heaviness, then pay attention. The issue is not the fabric. The issue is what your spirit is searching for through it. Because some Pisces souls right now are not shopping for clothes. They are unconsciously shopping for protection. Some are not choosing color. They are choosing camouflage for grief. Some are not dressing with confidence. They are dressing against fear. And when that happens, even small outward choices begin to echo deeper inward disorder. This is why heaven sometimes uses simple signs to get your attention. Not because God wants you anxious, but because He wants you aware. Not because blessing is fragile, but because discernment is precious. And not because destiny can be stolen by a color, but because repeated choices made in spiritual fog can lead you away from the wisdom that protects prosperity. Pisces, money and power rarely disappear all at once. They leak through exhaustion. They leak through confusion. They leak through people-pleasing, impulsive spending, poor timing, emotional attachment, and choices made while the soul is craving peace, but the ego is demanding proof. That is why this message is really about spiritual alignment. These days are showing you what frequency you have been living in. Have you been clothing yourself in faith or in hidden fear? Have you been moving in quiet trust or in urgency that drains your favor? Have you been receiving God's guidance or drowning it out with noise, pressure, and emotional overload? This is your moment to become conscious again. So as you listen, ask yourself honestly what your recent choices have been feeding. If this message is reaching something real in you, then comment, "I return to peace and divine alignment." Like this video to seal that intention. Subscribe if you are ready to walk in wisdom, abundance, and spiritual clarity. And share this with someone whose future needs protection, because what seems small now may be revealing everything about the season they are entering. Because when the soul returns to stillness, the eyes begin to see clearly. The heart stops begging for signs from the world, and the blessings prepared by God no longer feel far away. They gently recognize you again, and they begin to come closer. Pisces now. We arrive at the deepest part of this message, because the real danger was never just a color, and the real protection was never just an outfit. The central truth is this: what threatens your money and power in 2026 is not fabric, dye, or fashion by itself, but the inner state that leads you to choose what keeps your spirit heavy, your judgment clouded, and your blessing delayed. That is why these dates, April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th, matter. They are not magical traps. They are spiritual mirrors. And for you, Pisces, a sign so deeply tied to emotion, intuition, memory, and atmosphere, the colors you wear during these days can become symbols of what you are agreeing with inside yourself. If your heart is aligned with God, humility, peace, and awareness, even a simple choice can carry grace. But if your soul is moving through fear, confusion, ego, hidden grief, or silent desperation, then certain colors may amplify exactly what heaven is trying to help you release. So hear this clearly, Pisces. The colors you should avoid most carefully on April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th are blood red, deep black, and dark moss green. These are the colors this message is warning you about. Not because they are evil in every season, and not because your future depends on superstition, but because in this specific spiritual window, they may resonate too strongly with the very energies that weaken your clarity, distort your timing, and quietly disrupt your flow of abundance. Blood red can awaken haste, emotional impulsiveness, inner agitation, and the urge to prove something when your spirit actually needs stillness. Deep black can increase withdrawal, emotional heaviness, secrecy, and the temptation to hide inside pain instead of bringing it into the light of God. Dark moss green can stir stagnant attachments, envy, fear of loss, and an unconscious grip on what should already be surrendered. These colors are not your enemies, Pisces, but during these dates they can become reflections of states you can no longer afford to feed. And when you notice yourself reaching for them, do not panic. Pause. Pray and ask what your heart needs. Because awareness itself is already the beginning of protection, healing, and restored direction. This is the deeper truth. A person does not lose wealth because of a color alone. A person loses wealth when fear starts making decisions. A person does not lose power because of a shirt or a dress. A person loses power when spiritual exhaustion begins to choose appearances over alignment, emotional urgency over wise timing, and hidden pain over honest surrender. That is why this warning is sacred. It is not telling you to fear the outer world. It is calling you to examine the inner world. Because if you are drawn to blood red in this season, ask yourself whether you are trying to force movement where God is telling you to be still. If you are drawn to deep black, ask yourself whether you are covering your sadness instead of healing it. If you are drawn to dark moss green, ask yourself whether you are clinging to security that no longer belongs to your next chapter. This is where the prophecy becomes personal. This is where symbolism becomes revelation. In Buddhist wisdom, suffering expands when the mind grasps, reacts, and clings to illusion. In Christian faith, blessing flows where the heart trusts, obeys, and remains near the peace of God. You are being invited into both forms of wisdom now. Pisces, the wrong color in these days, is not just a visual mistake. It may be a sign that the soul is leaning toward the wrong agreement. And wrong agreements are costly. They drain discernment. They weaken restraint. They make you spend when you should wait, speak when you should pray, chase when you should rest, and hold on when heaven is asking you to release. This is how money begins to leak. This is how authority begins to fade. This is how favor becomes difficult to recognize, even when it is near. Not because God abandoned you, but because anxiety became louder than truth. So the central truth you must remember is this: the blessing over your life is protected when your inner world is protected. Your future wealth is protected when your spirit is not dressing itself in panic grief or hidden desperation. Your real power returns when you stop choosing symbols of struggle and start aligning yourself with symbols of peace. Surrender wisdom and holy confidence. Let these dates become a turning point. Refuse blood red if you feel emotionally inflamed. Refuse deep black if you feel spiritually burdened. Refuse dark moss green if you feel trapped in fear or attachment. Choose instead what calms you, softens you, clears you, and reminds you that your provision comes from God. Your strength is renewed through faith, and your path becomes brighter when your soul returns to stillness. If you feel this message speaking directly into your season, then comment now. I reject fear and I protect my blessing. Like this video as a sign that you are choosing wisdom over confusion. Subscribe if you are ready to walk into 2026 with peace, favor, and true abundance. And share this with another Pisces soul, because sometimes the smallest warning becomes the door that saves a future that was almost lost. Pisces. This is the moment to stop merely listening and begin responding with intention, because a warning only becomes protection when the soul chooses alignment. So right now, do not let this message remain a passing feeling. Let it become a sacred decision. Let it become a quiet ritual between you, God, your spirit, and the future that is still waiting to open correctly before you. On April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th, you are not being asked to live in fear. You are being invited to live in awareness. You are being asked to step away from what darkens your inner world and step closer to what restores peace, clarity, favor, and holy direction. This is your moment to choose differently, to move differently, and to cover yourself, not in anxiety, but in faith. So before those dates arrive, pause somewhere. Quiet. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe slowly and ask yourself, what have I been wearing in my spirit lately? Have I been clothing myself in pressure, comparison, exhaustion, and fear of lack? Or have I been clothing myself in trust, humility, prayer, and the calm confidence that what God has for me cannot be stolen by panic? Because that answer matters more than anything else in this video. And once you feel the truth rising in you, say this within yourself: I release every agreement with fear, confusion, and loss. I welcome peace, favor, and divine wisdom over my life. Pisces. This is not superstition. This is spiritual alignment. In Buddhist understanding, intention shapes the quality of the path. In Christian faith, the heart must be renewed before the steps become blessed. So let this next action be simple but real. When those days come, choose what reflects lightness, softness, purity, calm, and grace. Let your clothing remind your soul that you are no longer feeding inner chaos. Let it remind you that your value does not need to shout. Your blessing does not need to chase. Your abundance does not need to be forced. What is meant for you can arrive through peace. What is protected by God does not require panic to survive. And that is why your response to this message matters. Not because a comment magically changes destiny, but because spoken and written intention can wake up a sleeping part of the soul. So, if you are ready to step out of spiritual heaviness and protect the blessing over your 2026 comment, now I choose God's peace, wisdom, and abundance. Write it slowly. Write it like a vow. Write it like you are closing the door to every season that drained you and opening the door to a new season of favor. And as you type it, do not just leave words under a video. Plant a seed in your own spirit. Tell heaven that you are ready to move differently. Tell your future that you are done cooperating with hidden fear. Tell your soul that it no longer has to wear sorrow like armor. And if this message has touched something deep inside you, like this video as an act of agreement. Subscribe to this channel as your sign that you are choosing continued light, continued discernment, and continued reminders that your path is not over. Your blessing is not gone, and your wealth is still being protected when you walk with awareness. Then share this with another Pisces, or with someone whose spirit has been under pressure, because sometimes protection enters a life through a message forwarded at the right moment. Sometimes what saves a person is not noise, but one quiet warning received before the wrong decision multiplies. Pisces, let this be your ritual of return. Return to prayer. Return to stillness. Return to wise choices. Return to the version of yourself that does not beg fear for guidance. Because the more you return to inner peace, the more clearly you will hear divine instruction. And where divine instruction leads, provision follows. Where clarity grows, waste begins to end. Where faith becomes stronger than confusion, favor begins to rest again on the house, the mind, the finances, and the future. So do not leave this message halfway. Seal it with intention. Speak life, choose peace, protect the blessing, and prepare your spirit because the final truth is still coming. Pisces now. You can see that this message was never only about a color. It was about the soul beneath the color, the heart beneath the appearance, and the silent agreement you may have been making with fear without even realizing it. When this video began, it sounded like a warning about what to avoid on April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. But now, at the end, you understand something deeper. The outer choice was only the doorway. The real message was always about whether you will step into 2026 wearing anxiety, or wearing peace moving in spiritual fog, or walking in divine clarity, clinging to old heaviness, or allowing God to renew the atmosphere around your life. That is why this ending matters, because some Pisces souls will leave this message thinking only about clothing, but the ones who were meant to receive it will understand that heaven was speaking about alignment, faith, and the restoration of inner order. You were never being told to fear the world. You were being invited to pay attention to what your spirit has been normalizing. You were being shown that even the smallest habits can reveal whether the soul is tired, burdened, disconnected, hopeful, surrendered, or ready to rise. And once you see that everything changes, the warning becomes mercy, the pause becomes wisdom, the color becomes a mirror, and the mirror becomes a chance to return to yourself before the next chapter begins. Pisces. There are people who enter a new year with money in their hands, but emptiness in their spirit, and because they never healed the inner disorder, what they hold eventually slips away. And there are others who enter with peace, discernment, humility, and trust, and because their spirit is aligned, the blessings of God begin to recognize them, settle on them, and grow through them in ways that look almost miraculous from the outside. That is the path being offered to you now. Not a superstition, not a performance, a return to spiritual cleanliness, a return to calm choices, a return to the kind of inner stillness that protects your future before your future even arrives. In Buddhist truth, peace begins when attachment loosens and awareness deepens. In Christian faith, abundance becomes sustainable when the heart is rooted in trust instead of fear. You are being called into both forms of wisdom at once. So when April 22nd, 23rd, and 25th arrive, remember this: you are not simply choosing what to wear. You are choosing what kind of energy will accompany your steps. You are choosing whether your presence will carry hidden pressure or quiet blessing. You are choosing whether your mind will follow old emotional patterns or stand under a new covering of faith, grace, and holy restraint. And that choice matters because small agreements become seasons, and seasons become destinies. If this message has stayed with you until now, then you were meant to hear it. So comment. I walk into 2026 covered in peace and favor. Write it as a declaration over your spirit, your finances, your home, and your future. Like this video if you are ready to leave spiritual heaviness behind. Subscribe if you want more messages that protect your peace and awaken your discernment. And share this with someone who needs a gentle warning before a costly pattern repeats itself. Pisces, the most powerful truth is this: what almost weakened you can become the very thing that wakes you up. And perhaps that is the blessing hidden in this whole message. Perhaps the color was never the danger. Perhaps forgetting your own light was the danger. And perhaps remembering it again here and now is the beginning of the wealth, dignity, favor, and quiet power that heaven has been preparing for you all along. So do not walk away from this lightly. Carry it into prayer. Carry it into stillness. Carry it into the next decision you make when no one is watching. Because the future rarely changes in one dramatic moment. It changes when the soul begins to choose peace again, truth again, and the kind of wisdom that keeps blessings from being wasted for the rest of life.